Okay, good morning. We are the Home Depot think tank. I'm Tom Beatty.
I'm Eli Brown.
I'm Taylor Brew.
I'm Parker Higgs.
I'm Freya Penn.
And as you know, we've recently had a change in leadership. So Mr. Nardelli has stepped down and Mr. Blake has taken his place. And we were actually brought together to take a look at the current state of the company and figure out what recommendations we want to give Mr. Blake of processes to keep from Mr. Nardelli's changes and possibly some processes to get rid of. The big thing driving this is our underperformance in stock price, especially when compared to our competitors. So our biggest competitor, Lowe's, has seen an increase in stock prices in spite of some of the issues that we were facing. So we want to try and address what might be an issue internally and how we can tackle that problem moving forward. So this is the agenda for our meeting. We're going to have the problem statement, the situational analysis, so determining where we are right now, evaluation of alternatives, so we're going to show you 3 plans we looked at but didn't go with, and then our final recommendation and the plan of action on how we plan to tackle it. So I'm going to hand it off to Freya now to give our problem statement.
Hello everyone. I know you have been celebrating the resignment of Nardelli, but at this time point, we need to focus on our own business. The downturn of U.S. housing market has a huge impact on our sales growth. We experienced a 2.8 decrease in same-store sales, and Lowe's is keep expanding to new area and keep improving their sales revenue. How can we keep being the #1 giant of the home improvement industry? How can we keep our best employees with us? And how can we bring back the best professional friendly services we used to provide? With all these questions addressed, I believe we can see an increase in customer satisfaction rate, a decreased employee turnover, and eventually the increased sales revenue and stock price. To decide which approach we should take, we need to evaluate the situation through various analyses. First, nature of demand. Targeting the right customers with the right strategies can be crucial to both sales growth and customer satisfaction. We now have 3 major types of customers. First, DIY customers, second, DIFM customers, and third, professional customers. For DIY customers, our associate in-store provide guidance and tools to help them with any questions they might have with home improvement. For professional customers, we provide more merchandise selection and expanded credit program, and we provide additional delivery services and well-call services. For DIFM customers who enjoy hire somebody to get the job done, we provide installation options through third-party, independent, qualified contractors. Second, the extent of demand. We are the #1 retailer in home improvement in U.S., and we are the #2 retailer after Walmart in general. We have 100 stores domestically, and we have 155 stores in Canada, 61 stores in Mexico, and 12 stores in China. With all these stores across all over the world, we were able to achieve a sales of 90 billion in the past year. Okay, third, nature of competition. It's not controversial that Lowe's is our top competitor. We have more stores, more sales, and more employees. In general, we are bigger than Lowe's in size, but they have done a great job to keeping pace with us. Now they have higher gross profit margin, higher average customer ticket, and higher same-store sales growth. The PE ratio of Home Depot right now is 8.68, while Lowe's is having a PE ratio at 11.5, which means we are making more money per share, but our stocks are trading at a lower price. So at this time point, we need to focus on what we did right and where we need to improve. So I'm going to hand over to Eli. He will go through more analysis.
All right, so I'm just gonna give a quick breakdown of the pest analysis on the environmental climate that we're in right now. So politically, the environment is constantly changing, and that obviously brings opportunity for growth and expansion. Economically, there's currently a downturn in the U.S. market. 2007, we've seen a lot of people stop buying new houses. Socially, as we said here, women are being more involved in home improvement. So you're going to see a lot more women involved in the process of buying new equipment for home improvement. And technology is actually currently like on the up, right? So that's one of the big things that Home Depot adopted during the past 5 years, which actually helped operations become more efficient and effective. So based on that, we can see here that during the past 5 years or so, there's been a huge increase in focus on improving the operations within Home Depot, as well as making it more centralized and making it more easy to manage the overall company from the national side of things. Along with that, the introduction of technology has, like I said, helped operations become more effective, and we've also began to expand into Mexico and grow our company in that sense, and increased number of stores. Aside from that, we reached the more competitive side of construction, engineering. We're trying to sell more of our goods to those kind of customers as well. So, like I said, there's a lot of strengths here. The centralization, the large market share, which just means we got more people buying our goods, and the high profit margin. With those strengths, there are weaknesses. As you can see here, Nardelli, when he was in focus, he did a lot of good things regarding the operations and improving those, but he did put a little bit of a hindrance on our culture and took away from what Home Depot is all about, which is customer satisfaction. And that's why the employee turnover and the customer service went down. And so with that comes opportunities. Improved supply chain makes it so more time is available to use doing other things. International sales, the growth, like I said, across overseas. And the biggest one here, the biggest opportunity is the change in CEO. Having a new CEO come in will help us give some ideas that will help improve customer satisfaction and ideally increase the profitability of Home Depot when it comes to stocks. Threats, lows, they're always going to be there, but Home Depot's already captured 50% of the market. We'll talk about that more later on. Housing market, again, we spoke about that. And the bad market sentiment. People just don't like Home Depot right now. So, product, customer experience. We're all about giving the customer the best experience possible, teaching them how to do what they want to do with our goods, with what we give them to use. And prices, they're everyday low prices. They're very comparable to Lowe's. They're the best you're going to get. You can't argue with that. Promotion, we sell in stores, same thing. Customer satisfaction, all about selling to the customer and having them be satisfied with the product and the way they're going to use it. Aside from that, we are national and international. So I'm going to go ahead and send it off to Taylor here. She's going to explain the evaluation of alternatives.
Alright, so when we were doing kind of our brainstorming, we came up with a few different alternative solutions to this problem that we're having. So the first one's going to be to lean into our new reputation. So right now we kind of have this lower customer service, but really good supply, really good centralization, and really focusing on the technology aspect. So the pros of this kind of solution is that we don't necessarily, it doesn't require a lot of resources or time because we're kind of already on that trajectory. And this is also similar to successful business models like Walmart. They kind of have this same idea and it works for them. The cons of this though is that our customer base already has a ready alternative of Lowe's. So if we're not giving them the kind of needs, meeting their needs and that customer satisfaction that they're looking for, they can easily transfer over and start shopping at Lowe's. Leaning into our old reputation is kind of the alternative of that. So, you know, when we were first founded, we were a very small storefront, very niche market of home improvement experts. And so we can kind of revert back to that to bring back our old customer satisfaction culture, really focusing in on the customer. It's worked for us in the past, so we know that it's been successful before. But this is kind of being naive to the fact that businesses have to evolve to stay successful because times are constantly changing, especially in the market we are in. And also this would result in a smaller market reach, and we're already having problems with our customer satisfaction, and so choking off part of our customer base would really increase that customer dissatisfaction. And thirdly is our most direct approach that we came up with, which would be to launch a stock repurchasing plan. So it's very direct because we would immediately see an increase in our stock price just from repurchasing some of the stock out on the market. And this would implement the idea of supply and demand, so we're decreasing our supply and hoping to see that increase in share price. Now the cons of this is it's really expensive to buy back enough stock to make this a sufficient plan, and it's also a very short-term fix. So we're really only addressing the effect of our problem, we're not addressing the causes. So now I'm gonna turn it over to Tom, who's gonna talk about the solution we went with.
Thank you, Taylor. So as Taylor mentioned, we had several different options that we went through to look at how to kind of right the ship here, so to speak. But as we looked through them, we felt that each of those options was like a one-sided die. It didn't really address all the issues at hand. So we have this new company that's been modernized and really sleeked itself out, really slimlined the ship, and it's a very efficiently running machine. But clearly there's some issue there, right? The symptom is a decrease in stock price. So the general public clearly hasn't liked everything that's happened. And so we started thinking, what is it about the old Home Depot that everybody liked so much, that showed such good share performance? And I thought back to a personal experience that I had. First time home buyer, just got in the house, I had an issue with the sink. And I went to a Home Depot, and I had in mind some pipe fittings that I needed to buy to complete the project. I was looking for these fittings, and an associate came up and said, hey, what can I help you with? I explained the project, explained the parts that I was looking for, and he said, you know what, I see how it is you're tackling the project, but let's instead go this other direction, and I think I have a better solution for you. And he was right. That's the key ingredient. That's what made Home Depot so successful in the beginning, was knowledgeable staff that you could go to, and me as a DIYer, just lean on that expertise from. Part of that was being an ingredient of this entrepreneurial spirit. Our founders were entrepreneurs, and they wanted their store managers to be entrepreneurs. So as we looked how to tackle this problem and how to approach the issue of underperformance, we thought, okay, we realized that we need to modernize. We need to implement all these processes that Eli touched on that bring us into the 21st century. But then we also need to not lose that old-timey touch, right, of personal customer service and quality culture that ultimately is what brought us here to begin with. So we summarize our focus as being the improvement of customer service through a realignment of company culture and reevaluation of employee utilization. So here's why we chose this path, right? As I mentioned, all of the steps that brought us to this place were necessary. They had this unfortunate effect, though, of causing us to lose sight of what initially brought us here. So there's an old phrase, dance with who brought you, right? So don't lose sight of what it is that made you successful in the first place. We almost feel like we kind of got out over our skis a little bit, ran a little bit too fast, stumbled and fell. These were all necessary measures that we took, but we implemented them so quickly, the customer base, the organization, etc., didn't have time to actually kind of grow organically with it. These changes affected the company culture. We had huge turnover, so 97%, I think Eli mentioned that, 97% within our executive ranks. And anytime you have a mass exodus like that, you have to kind of reset your culture. So that's what we're trying to do. Now, what could possibly go wrong, right? Well, anytime you start talking about something like culture, it's immeasurable, it's opaque. And so it's very difficult to figure out if you're having success or not. But we think that there's a couple of ways we could actually track that. One being retention, right? 97% turnover is a huge rate, so we've got to stop the bleeding. Another way is the confidence of the market within Home Depot, so share price should reflect that. We believe this is the right decision at the right time. All the other assessments that we made, all the other proposed solutions, they were just treating the symptoms. But we believe that by focusing on a changing culture, giving store managers more say in how to actually run their operations, and also focusing on hiring the right employees to do the job, will ultimately carry us through this. Now I'm going to pass this off to Parker, who's going to tell us the nuts and bolts of how to actually get this done.
All right, thank you, Tom. So far we've gone through the recommendation, and I'm here to give you the detailed steps on how we're going to make that happen. So first I want to start with what things we're going to keep and what things we're going to discard from previous years here at Home Depot. So the top things that we want to keep are the modernized processes and data-backed decision-making. These two kind of go hand in hand. Our Six Sigma projects use a lot of data, and our FAST initiative creates a lot of data, and they're both adding efficiencies to our company. Two other things that we want to keep are the Orange Juice initiative and employee rewards type program, and then also the expansion into Canada, Mexico, and China are going to be really good for us in the coming years. Some of the things that we think that we need to get rid of now would be the focus on hiring managers from outside of the retail space. We don't see this as a good long-term strategy for customer satisfaction. And then we also have the myopic cost-cutting measures, and then the managers focus on performance metrics rather than the true performance of their stores. So we know what we want to do. When is this all going to happen? So I want to go over the short, mid, and long-term plans that we have here. So in the short term, the first order of business is hiring. We want to start getting more experienced sales associates and people on the floor. And we also want to start hiring managers, top-tier managers from retail space. Another change that we want to make in the short term is to survey our managers of the stores and see what type of input they have for us. And then lastly, we want to change up some of the programming that we have on our internal Home Depot TV. In the medium term, we want to look at the survey results that we've got from our store managers and then actually follow through and make changes based on what they told us. We also want to change the way we have weekly meetings with our employees in stores, and we want to research customer satisfaction through surveys in store and on receipts and that type of thing. And then in the long term, these are things that are 1 or 2 years out. We want to evaluate based on the surveys that we've got from our managers and customers. We want to continue to do this type of information gathering to see if the changes we made are actually being successful. And then secondly, the hiring of new managers and executives is a process that takes a while. So we start in the short term, but we're not going to really see the benefits until the long term, 1 or 2 years out. So as far as what resources are needed for making this plan happen, there are a lot of financial resources and managerial resources as well. The first budgetary item would be the hiring of top talent. It's going to cost us some money. We think it's worth it for the long term. The more good employees you have at your company, the better you'll do. And then we want to increase the proportion of full-time sales associates and floor employees relative to the part-time people who come in for a few hours a week. We think this will help with customer service. And then lastly, we want to shift our managers' focus more towards soft skills and getting in touch with customers and employees in their stores. So moving on, this is my last slide here. It's the contingency plan. So what happens if all of this goes wrong and we're not seeing improvements that we want to see? First of all, we don't want to give up. We want to continue to put a focus on hiring employees with experience, even if this means incurring more of a cost than we originally thought. This is going to be important to stick to because it's going to be difficult to continue if we're not seeing the results we want. And then secondly, we could hire a market research group to figure out why maybe our internal surveys aren't as accurate as we'd like them to be, and they can run focus groups and things like that. And then lastly, if this housing market decline continues somehow, we may think about diversifying our product line to cushion us from the housing market. And lastly here, I do have an example of the survey that we're gonna send to our managers, and there's gonna be an open text box too for them to respond to. And we feel like this may be useful with a new change of CEO. They may be more willing to give us good feedback. So that's all we've got today. It was a little bit shorter than we wanted to be, but feel free to ask questions, and thank you for the presentation.